This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. As the Israeli bombing of Gaza continues through its 9th day, Palestinians across the occupied West Bank, Gaza, and inside Israel are staging a historic general strike. For more, we go to Haifa in Israel to speak with Rami Yunus, Palestinian journalist and activist who's originally from the city of Lid. If you can talk about the significance of this general strike, Rami, and in talking about you being from Lid, the mob violence, the attacks on Palestinians that's taking place right now.
Well, the strike, Amy, is a historical event. For the first time since 1936, that's 12 years before the Nakba, the catastrophe of the Palestinian people, or the founding of the State of Israel. For the first time ever, we are striking in all over Palestine, from the river to the sea. So what's happening right now, I mean, everything started a few weeks ago with a popular uprising. You see youth demonstrating everywhere in Palestine, in Jaffa, in Nazareth, in Haifa, in Lid, and in Jerusalem, and in Gaza, all for Jerusalem, all for Sheikh Jarrah. These demonstrations were countered by a lot of police brutality instantly, and resulting in the clashes, the violent clashes that then turned into basically Palestinians defending themselves every night against attacks by Israeli settlers and the Israeli police. Now, let me go into Lid and describing what's happening in Lid. Lid, my hometown, also Hebrew, in Hebrew they call it Lod, was a Palestinian city that was occupied in 1948, right? Nowadays they call it a mixed city. What happened in that mixed city is that 15 years ago, when they evicted those settlers from Gaza, they moved them into Lid, and these settlers moved into Lid with a very clear and declared goal of Judaizing the city, meaning these Jewish supremacists who were removed from Gaza went into Lid, and mind you, Lid is only 10 minutes from Tel Aviv, 5 minutes from the airport. We're not talking about a city in the West Bank. And started Judaizing the place. They started building their own settlements. They started moving into Palestinian neighborhoods. And we have been seeing a rise in house demolitions for Palestinian people in the past 15 years. The average of houses being demolished a year is somewhere between 10 to 15 houses. Before the settlers moved into Lid, only 2 or 3 houses a year got demolished. The demolitions come because 80% of the people who live there, their houses were built without a building permit because the authorities won't issue one, so that they can come later and maybe use it as a political whip to punish the local population. Now, with all of this tension, with all of this background, Palestinians, especially young people under the age of 20, took to the street and started demonstrating. When they were countered by the brutal force by the Israeli police, and then the Israeli right-wingers started attacking them and shooting them on the street, this is when all hell broke loose. Now, Amy, every day I wake up and I reach out for my phone and I pray to God that this is not the morning that I'm gonna be seeing a horrifying text message. This is not the morning that I will be receiving the catastrophic news. We are worried. We are very, very worried. And what's even more worrying is that it's not just people. It's not just that these settlers are moving from these settlers are openly attacking Palestinians, is that police is allowing settlers from the West Bank, from places like Yitzhar and Nukdim, you know, people who became professional in burning olive groves. These people are moving into Lid, coming into Lid on a daily basis. They roam free at night in the city streets, breaking curfew, while the Israeli police not only allowing them to break curfew while the Palestinians are locked in their homes, but escorting them, and more often than not, they actually attack Palestinians with settlers, and we have tons of evidence to show for.
And Rami, could you talk about the role of the Israeli media in propagating and legitimizing hateful and violent or Zionist rhetoric?
You know, how the Israeli media and the way they behave these days is a perfect example of how structural violence is maintained and nurtured in Israel. You know, I was in a TV interview last week when it was still demonstrations, before it was basically Palestinians defending themselves against the mobs and the police. I was in an interview on Israeli TV, and then the anchor said that maybe it's time to reload the gun magazines. And we actually, throughout the live broadcast, we counted incitement by him 8 times. He incited 8 times to kill Palestinians on the street. The other day, 2 or 3 days ago, an Israeli journalist, Israel Fry, on Israeli TV, criticized the police, criticized the mayor of Lid, and said that it doesn't make any sense. Why are you allowing settlers to come into Lid from the West Bank? Why are these armed people coming into the city and creating all this unrest? He was immediately silenced by the anchor. So what we're seeing right now, not only incitement by the Israeli police, but they're also trying to silence voices that are coming from Israeli journalism, voices who are criticizing the actions of the Israeli government and the Israeli police. Not only that,
we have 5 seconds, Rami.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that the Israeli police are not telling the whole truth. If you confront them with the evidence, they're basically gonna call you a liar, and they're not gonna.
We're going to do part 2 with you and post online at democracynow.org and play a clip of that interview you did, Rami Yunus. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Stay safe.